はようございます。薄いクリアです。お待たせしました。準備が整いました。はい、ISS からクルードラゴンクルー5の帰還中継です。ISS から中継ではなくて ISS から帰還するクルードラゴンの中継です。若田宇宙飛行士が乗っていますよ。なかなかないね、日本人の滞在で、しかも半年間の滞在ですから、半年に1回しか見られないものでもあります。結構面白いと思うので、ぜひ最後まで見ていってください。それではカウントダウンをしてリアの配信を幕開けしてください。いいですか？はい、でみんなでカウントするよ。いきますよ。せーの、10、9、8、7、6、5、4、3、2、1、0。おはようございます。はい、今日は画面を出すの忘れました。すいません。今日は ISS の帰還なんですが、 ISS からの帰還なんですが、もうすでに昨日切り離しを行っています。はい、で昨日の4時16時頃に日本時間で切り離しをしていて、その後この時間までずっと狭い船内の中に、船って言ったら広いけど狭い船内の中にずっといらっしゃるということで、宇宙飛行士さんが今日はね降りてきて出てくるところまで見たいと思います。これ先に言っとくんだけど、リアちょっと最後配信時間の制約があって、多分12時ぐらいまでしか配信ができないので、それ以降は多分続いていても配信しないと思います。期間は11時となっておりますので、その時までに空を見上げるような感じになるんじゃないかなと思いますので、よろしくお願いします。では移していきましょう。途中まではね、あんまりね動きがないというか、音声だけなんですね。なんかこういう風になってるよっていうアナウンスが来る感じです。ただ途中からはすごくかっこいい映像が見られると思います。では足していこう。はい、早速ですが、よいしょ。ちょっと BGM 切ろうかなと思います。いいかな？切りますね。はい、切りました。で、こっちの音入れていきますね。
Dragon uses its Draco thrusters after leaving station to execute a series of altitude-lowering maneuvers until line up with this selected primary site, but it can also change to different alternate sites while in free flight if sudden weather moves in that we need to avoid. That's something we're currently or constantly looking at as weather, so we make the final call to proceed about 2.5 hours before the crew undocks. For the Crew-5 return, as always, we look at a number of weather items. Some of those more obvious ones are no rain or chance of lightning in the recovery zone. Those for the safety of the crew in the capsule and the recovery teams on the water. We're also looking for wind speeds less than 15 feet per second, or about 10 miles per hour, and relatively calm seas, so we can safely execute recovery operations, which includes landing a helicopter on the recovery ship to fly Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna back to Florida. Now, I have heard the weather described in 4 different ways for this Tampa site. I've heard go, very go, home run, and stupendous. So it sounds like they have a pretty nice landing site waiting for them today.
I think one time we also got super go.
Oh, wow. It's another level. So once Dragon began flying free yesterday, there were a number of additional checkpoints to either proceed toward the primary site, head to the alternate, or select a new zone based on real-time weather data. These checks happened all the way up until we are in the final hours before the deorbit burn, which started about 6 minutes ago. That's this last burn in the trip home, and it commits the Dragon capsule to re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
よいしょ。はい、では。
Before we go any further, let's go ahead and take a minute to meet our crew.
First up is Nicole Mann on the left side of the screen there. She's the California
Nicole
native
Mann
who holds a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering
です
and
ね。
is a colonel
コ
in
マ
the
ンダー
Marine
の方
Corps.
ですね。
She was an FA-18
これは
Hornet
クルー5
and
というメンバー
Super
で
Hornet test pilot
4人のメン
and
バーから
deployed
な
twice
って
aboard
いま
aircraft
す。ニコール・マン
in
さん。
support of combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nicole was selected by NASA in June 2013 and in the years that
来歴という
followed
か、
led the astronaut
あの、
Corps in the
何
development
を
of
してましたみたい
hardware
なこと
in
言
the
ってますね。
Artemis program.
ハードウ
She
ェアプ
is
ログラ
the
ム
Dragon commander for Crew-5, which was her first space flight. She's right there in the foreground of the shot, monitoring this deorbit burn. And she is also the first Native American woman to stay on the International Space Station.
Sitting next to Nicole
次
is
は
Josh Cassada,
Josh
who grew up in
Cassada.
Bear Lake, Minnesota. The physicist and
クルー
U.S.
5のパイ
Navy
ロットの
test
方
pilot
ですね。
flew 23 combat
操縦して
missions
くれ
and
ま
later
す。
became
ク
an
ルー
instructor
ドラゴ
at
ン
the
は。
U.S. Naval Test Pilot School, which is a
今
common
聞いた
path
US
military
Navy テ
officers
テス
who
トパイロッ
take,
ト、ネイビー
take to
US
join
なんたら
NASA.
ねテストパイロットって言った。
Cassada is one
空
of
軍の
more
テスト
than
パイロットだったの
100
かなって
graduates who became astronauts going back to the Mercury program.
クルー5につい
On
て
Earth,
詳
he
しいメン
served
バーに
as
ついてはね、ク
capsule
ルー5の打
commander
ち上げの
in
時に結
mission
構
control, but
喋り
for
な
his
がら
first
配信
space
したの
flight
で、
on
クルー5の打
Crew-5,
ち上げの時
he
も
has
結
served
構
as
見て
pilot
もらえ
on
たらと
Dragon.
思います。半年前に打ち上げ
In
て
the
ずっ
role
と
of
半年
mission
間
specialist,
い
you
らっ
can't
しゃい
see
ま
him
した。
here. He's to the left of
そしてこいつ若田
Japanese
へ
astronaut Koichi Wakata. Koichi has a doctorate in aerospace
Koichi!
engineering and in 1996 became the first Japanese mission specialist aboard the space shuttle
初めての
Endeavour for
ジャパニーズ
STS-72.
ミッションスペシャリス
In
ト
addition to his current mission, Koichi flew 4 space shuttle missions,
4回の
Roscosmos
スペシャル
Soyuz, and was
スペースシャ
on
トル
a
と
long
ソユ
duration
ズ
stay
1
aboard
回
the
何回
International Space Station. And
4
just
回
on March 6th, just
スペ
a
ースシャ
few
トル
days ago, Koichi reached his 500th day in space.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
500 日
The second mission specialist
500 で
is
500日も
Roscosmos
宇宙で過ごした
Anna
やばいね
Kikina. She graduated from the
はい、アンナ・キキナさん
This is a tough one.
今回
It was
初フライトだっ
Novosibirsk
たはずで
State
すね、この方
Academy
キキナ
of Water Transport in 2006.
帰ってくる
In
の
2012, Anna officially became a candidate for the position of test
Anna.
cosmonaut. Crew-5 was Anna's first flight into space as part of the resumption of integrated crews on U.S. Crew spacecraft and the Soyuz with the Russian State Space Corporation, Roscosmos.
ロスコスモス
Now we are still in that deorbit burn. Those crew members now about 42 minutes away from that targeted splashdown time of 9:02 p.m. Eastern
11
time.
時2
It
分
looks like we have about
日本
2
時間
minutes
の
left,
タイミン
maybe
グ
a
ま
minute
で
and a half
ク
in
ス
that
プラッシュダウン
deorbit
の
burn,
時間
but
まであと
things are
40 分
going
くらいにな
well
りま
so
した
far. All of those 4 Draco engines
4
firing
つの
for
ド
the
ラコエン
last
ジンを
time before
燃やして
closing that nose cone and
ノーズ
preparing
コーンを
the
閉めて
capsule for re-entry.
カプセルのリエントリーを行いますって言ってる
There on your screens, you can see the crew is continuing to monitor Dragon's progress in this deorbit burn.
クルー
We
が
have
オービット
about
バ
a
ーンデオービ
minute
ット
and
バーン
a
をしてるのが見えますかって
1
言って
minute
る
and 31 seconds to be exact, remaining in this burn.
デオービットバーン
As you
今や
can
って
see
ると
with
こって
those
ことかな
displays, there's a small set of physical buttons that the crew can use for emergency situations. And then the displays are touchscreen, which has more features that they can use in flight, in addition to the tablets that are on their legs. You can see Nicole's there on her left leg.
左の足
You
の
can
ところ
also
に
see a
なんて
good
言ってんの
shot of the control panel for the seats themselves. That's where the mic volume and the push-to-talk button is also located for the crew to use. And that's, I believe that's also where the crew cabin light button is located. So just like an airplane, everybody has their own personal window, or excuse me, personal light that they
The
can
reading
use.
light.
Yeah,
Yes.
to read, exactly. There's also USB ports in the Dragon capsule as well.
USB ポートあるって
Yeah, not on the chairs. It's
多
kind of
分
like
さっ
above
きの
their
左
heads.
の
They
足
can't
の
really
近く
reach
に
them
なんか問題
while
なん
on
か
flight, but certainly
エマージェン
useful
シーの
during
時に
the opportunities where
こ
they
の
don't have to be
ド
on
ラ
the seats
なんか
and
危ない
recharge
の
those
がある
tablets that they use.
時に左の足の付
Now
近に
continuing
スイ
to
ッチみ
monitor
たいな
again,
の
we
があ
are
るっ
in
て
the
言ってたの
deorbit
かな
burn and should be wrapping up here very shortly. Crew members just monitoring as this is a completely autonomous flight.
10 seconds remaining in this deorbit burn.
USB ポートあれよって言ってたではちょっとね、デオビット版中ではあるみたいなんですけど、今回のミッションの様子を
That deorbit burn
見よう
is
と思います。
Deorbit burn complete.
デオビット版コンプリート
Nose cone closure initiated.
ノーズコーンを閉めます。デオビット版っていうのは軌道から離脱するための燃焼のことです。ちょっとこのページに書いてあると思うので見ます。完璧ですって言ってる。コンプリートになるね。完全に大丈夫。そのままですって言ってる。
That's right. That nose cone is what protects those Draco thrusters, as well as that forward hatch, which is the hatch that the crew, of course, used to dock to the space station and get in and out of Dragon while it was docked on station. That side hatch is what they will be using, or the side hatch, which is on the side of Dragon, is what they will be using to get out of the capsule after splashdown, but not that forward hatch, which is what is being covered up now, or what will be covered up as we step into nose cone closure.
ノーズコーン閉まってる。
There we can see a live view of that nose cone closing
ノー
on
ズコーンが
Dragon
閉まってる。
Endurance.
ノーズコーンの内側からの映像ですね。ノーズコーン
So in the
うわー
Dragon is currently inhibiting those forward bulkhead Draco thrusters that we just used to complete the deorbit burn. Those are inhibited now, I should say, meaning that it was safe to latch the nose cone shut. And the vehicles initiated the nitrox suit purge. This will help keep Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna cool and comfortable during re-entry, which is coming up in about 20 minutes.
はい。
At this point, like we saw, the nose cone is closing, protecting the forward hatch for re-entry. So Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna are using their screens to continue monitoring the locking of the nose cone, which is done by a set of hooks.
That's exactly right. Now we have a live view there of Mission Control Hawthorne, actually located just to the side of Leah and I. That is where the calls are coming from that we hear to the crew, coming from SpaceX Core Mike Blasco.
そもそも
Another view there of that nose cone closing.
ドラゴンというものはこういうものになっ
There's
ていまし
about
た。このノーズコーン
another
開いてる
minute
状
and
態なんだ
14
けど、
seconds
こんな感じになっ
remaining
てる
in
ね。
the nose cone
あ、
close.
ノーズコーン閉まってる。
But yeah, those calls that we
ね、こん
hear
な感じになってます。
to the
で
crew and basically
こういう
communicating
ものが
status of
返ってきます、
what's
今日は。
happening or what has completed, that comes from that room that you see there on your
こういう感
screen.
じですね。で、この上のところに皆さんが乗っていらっしゃって、下の
We're
ところ
standing
は
by
弱
for
火
the
を集めなので、
confirmation of nose
後で
cone
多分これは
closure.
ぽいになりますの
We
で。
are now about 18 hours since undocked
ぽいです。
yesterday,
下は
so
ぽい
we've
で、
mentioned
上は
that the
残
crew
っ
has
て
had
い
time
ます。
to
この上
rest,
だけ帰ってき
relax,
ます。
maybe eat a little bit, take a nap, but right now are monitoring the continuation of nose cone closure, just waiting on that call out to the crew.
About 30 seconds remaining now to nose cone close.
なるほど、こんな感
As we
じで
said
ね、
before,
パラシュー
since
ト
we
開いて
won't
帰
be
ってくる
using
の
the
で、
four
楽しみにしてて。
forward Draco thrusters, and obviously the hatch
Nose
is
cone 開いてる
sealed
やつ
and
は書いて
shut,
ない
we
な。
are able to close that nose cone. It's an important step because ultimately this is the,
大事なステッ
now
プで
that
すって
the
言ってる
trunk
ね。
has been separated, this is the last major physical change that Dragon will undergo
で、
prior to
ISS に
deorbit burn.
こんな感じでくっついていたのを、
Dragon
昨
that the
日
Crew
か
5 crew
な、
members are flying on today is named Endurance.
IS から
It
離れ
was
てデパー
dubbed
チャー
that
バ
by
ーン
the
を
Crew
行っ
3
てお
crew
りました。
in
で、
honor of the
話していって、
endurance shown by the NASA and SpaceX teams as they were building and training, or building the spacecraft and training the crew through the pandemic. So I thought that was a really nice way to honor both the teams.
Very fitting for sure.
地球にだんだん帰って
So
く
we're
るんで
standing
すけ
by
ど、
for
デパー
the
チャーバーン
call
をし
out
て
to
高度を下げ
confirm
てい
that
きま
the
す。
nose cone has
で、
been closed.
フェージングバーン、燃焼を何回もするんですね。で、トランク
Again,
を
this
外
is the
しま
last
す。
major physical change
トランクはもう捨
that
ててある
Dragon
はず、もう
undergoes
すでに。
prior to that deorbit burn, or excuse me,
3の
prior
ところでトラン
to
クを捨てて、
re-entering the Earth's
4のところ
atmosphere.
でデオビットバーンをして、グッと帰ってきます。デオビットっていうのは
They've
オービ
already
ットっていう
completed
軌道
the
っていうところ
deorbit
から
burn
で
itself.
なので、
Yes.
軌道から
So
降りてい
this
きます
nose
よとい
cone
うことで
closure
す。で
is
こうやって降
an
りてくるんだっ
important,
て。
one of
何
the
してるか
last
のが
steps prior to that
出
re-entry.
したいね。
That deorbit burn really commits
まず
us
デパーチャーバー
to
ン、次フェージン
returning
グバ
to
ーンを
Earth.
して、
There's
次トランク
Not really any
そう
waving
トランクを
off
外す
after
んです
that
そう
happens.
ポイしてる
And as we
離脱
mentioned
っていう
before,
感じ
we are
です
targeting a splashdown off the
そ
coast
し
of
て
Tampa,
今日
Florida.
のデオビット版今これをやったところですね
Now look here at both
次リエン
teams
トリー
monitoring
リエ
the
ントリーは分
mission.
かりやす
Over
い
on
と
the
思います
left
サイ
is
トによって
mission
そ
control
の
in
ままです
Hawthorne,
ね
and on the
ここ
right
にボールが
is
出てますけど
mission control at NASA's
側面
Johnson Space
の
Center
と
in
ころを
Houston, Texas.
大気
Home
に向け
sweet
て降り
home.
てくる
They
その後パラシュ
were
ート
in
が
joint
開いて
operations while Dragon was
そして
docked to the International
スプ
Space
ラッシュダウン
Station
着水
and until
シ
the
ャンって感じです
spacecraft
ね
exited
こ
the
んな感
approach
じで
ellipsoid.
帰ってくる
So
ので
now the
多
teams
分
are
リエン
continuing
トリー
to
の時
watch
に
the
ブラックアウトと
watch
言
the
われ
re-entry
る
of
プ
the
ラズマに
spacecraft
包まれ
and
るか
prepare
ら
to welcome the astronauts home.
通信できなくなり
in
ますよっていうや
monitoring
つが
mode
あるん
now,
ですね。で
since we are
通信が途絶
obviously
してしまうんで
quite
す
a
けど
ways
そ
away
れが
from
終わっ
the
て帰って
International
きた
Space
時
Station
ぐらいから
itself.
ちょうど肉眼でも見えるようになるぐらいだと思います。
And as for the crew on the International Space Station, they
今日昼な
are
ので光っては見え
in
な
a
いかも
sleep
なんで
period
すけ
right
ど
now, but they do have the
パラシュ
opportunity
ー
to
ト
watch
デ
these
プロイこの
broadcasts and
パラシュート開く
watch
前
their
から
friends arrive back on Earth.
宇
So
宙船を多分目視するこ
hopefully,
と
if
が
they're
できて
watching, they
カメ
still
ラで
take
捉え
some
てもら
time
える
to
んじゃ
get a
ないか
little
なと
shut eye
思
later
います。
tonight.
でパラシュートの方は最初にドロッグシュートというちっちゃいパラシュ
At
ートを
this
開
point
い
in
て
time, the
その後に
nose cone is closed. We're just waiting
大きいパラ
for
シュート
that
メイ
to
ン
be
の方を
called
開
out
く
to
と
the
いう2段
crew.
階方式になっていて、まあ
From
PSP と
the
かやったことある
SpaceX
人は分かるかもだ
core,
け
next
ど
up will
最
be
初に大きいパラシュー
to
トを開くとグッ
initiate
とい
that
きなりね
nitrox
減速してし
purge.
まうのでそうじゃなくてちっちゃいやつ
Again,
で
that
ちょっ
just
とだけ減
helps to
速して
keep
か
the
ら
crew super
大きいやつに
comfortable
焼くっていう感じ
during
に
that
してい
reentry
ます。
period.
ドロッグシュートが開いてちっちゃって思ってもメインじゃないから気をつけてね。そしてスプラッシュ
And
ダウ
then
ン
coming up a little bit later tonight, around 5:50.
この三角形のやつが残って海に
5:50 p.m. Pacific time. That's when the
どんぶらこするの
entry
ね。それ
of
で
the spacecraft will begin. And during
そ
that
れ
time,
を
we
船で
anticipate
回
to
収し
lose
に行って
communication with the
回収して
spacecraft
引き
as
上げた
plasma is
後に
building
人
up
間を
around
出すっ
it.
ていうそんなところま
It
で
is
回収してくれま
traveling
す。
through
た
the
だリア今日
atmosphere.
12時までなので 12
Eventually,
時以
we
降
will
は多分見られないと思うんで
regain
すけ
that
どよろし
signal
くお願
and
いします。
communication with the crew members. But of course,
どうかな
Dragon knows
理解で
exactly
きた
what
か
it's
な
doing
多分
that
そんなに
entire
難し
way
くないと思い
home.
ます。上
They
から
are
落ちて
just
きて
monitoring and
突入してパラシュート
getting
開い
closer
て
and closer to splashdown. Again, targeting
水に落ちる
splashdown
だけ
for
海に落ちる
9:02
だけ
p.m.
です。
Eastern Time, 6:02 p.m. Pacific, off the coast of
はい、ミッショ
Tampa,
ンタイム
Florida.
ラインもありますね。これも見ていきましょうか。ミッションタイムラインででーん。お、わかりやすいですねこれ。
Nose cone closure continues. It looks like the first set of hooks is closed and the second set is
今
closing
は
as we
ち
speak.
ょうどドローグパラシュートの前、レオビット1のとこだから811か。811が10時11分です。はい。
For our
ここが
four
10
crew
時
members
11
on
分。
Crew-5,
今
for
10時
three of
半
them,
なの
this
で
was their
ちょうど
first
ノーズ
space
コーン
flight.
閉め
So
てた
Nicole
時ぐらい
Mann,
です
Josh
ね。
Cassada, and Anna Kikina are all coming
ここ
home
から
with
ちょっとドローグパラシュート
157
デプロイ
days
まで
in
がだいぶ
space.
荒
As I
いぞ。
mentioned earlier, Koichi Wakata
もうちょっと書いてほしいけど、
has
リエントリー
this
のタイ
is
ミング
his
とか書いて
fifth
ないで
space
すね
flight. So he is coming home with a total of 505 days in
こ
space.
の間でいろいろ起こるよっていうことなんで、今からが多分見どころがいっぱいあると思います。はい、よろしくね。メインパラシュート
And in following along with the procedures that the crew are stepping through,
Nose cone secured for entry.
ピーピーピーピーピー
Dragon copy.
カピー。はい、ここから多分
and
ね、
there is that
リエントリー
confirmation
とかあ
of
ったりと
nose
か
cone
まだ
closure that we
なかなか見ら
were
れないと
standing
思う
by
の
for.
で
Now, as we begin the second half of
分離の
entry,
様子を
Dragon is now
見たいかなと
beginning to
思ってい
inject
ま
that
す。
cooled nitrox or nitrogen oxygen mixture into the air being delivered to the suits worn by Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna. Again, that's what will allow the crew to remain super comfortable while the external temperatures reach 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, so a little warm on the outside. That heat shield is pointing forward, leading the capsule to the landing site. And speaking of the heat shield, Dragon's primary heat shield is comprised of PICA 3.0, which stands for Phenolic Impregnated Carbon Ablator. The first generation PICA was actually first developed by NASA for studying and sampling comets within our solar system.
Yeah, so SpaceX partnered with NASA to develop Pika X, which was the second generation product used on all Dragon 1 commercial resupply missions that successfully resupplied the station on over 20 missions. Pika 3.0 was developed specifically for use on Dragon 2 crew and cargo spacecraft with enhanced structural and thermal properties that optimized the heat shield and drove down the cost and mass.
The remainder of Dragon capsule is composed primarily of a SpaceX proprietary ablative material. It's another class of thermal protection, which is lighter weight versus Pika and protects the underlying composite structure during
まずこうやって
ensure that the structural capabilities are maintained.
So while Dragon will experience temperatures well over
だんだん降りていって
Fahrenheit during peak re-entry
これトランクを捨てて
conditions of the thermal protection system.
これねトランク捨ててノズコーンからデオビットバーンしてデオビットバーンが終わったら閉じてそしてうわーっとリエントリーガーッとしてパラシュートを開きうわ開いたすごいでスプラッシュダウンわかりやすいトランクって何
Crew Dragon and
トランクは
re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. A series of parachutes will deploy to slow the crew's descent.
この下のとこがトランク
Followed by the four main
これがトランクです
Dragon 2
これがトランク
contact
あの貨物室みたいなイメージでトランクと言っている感じですね多分ねトランクカバンですねカバン
these parachutes when different pressure and positioning sensors on the capsule detect that they are at the right speed and
噴射するエンジンとか乗ってるの違いますこのロケットみたいなやつはこの下からこの下から出るわけじゃなくてここには何も出なくてたまに間違えられるんだけどそうこんな形してるからさこっちがノイズコーンでさここからさ炎が出る気がするじゃん違うんだよそこじゃなくてそこじゃなくてどこだあここですここですここなんだってここですここに6個裏側に6個さっき言ってたノーズコーンのここの中に4個ついています。123456裏にも6個で12個プラス1234で13141516個ついてる。はい。なのでさっきのここでもなんだけどよくここを見てると多分ここで上から吹くと思うんだトランク外した後上からほら燃焼してるでしょここにふわーってこっち向きで燃えてますよねこんな感じになるんだってはい噴射するの見たい今から多分ね昨日のやつを再配信するのでそしたら見られますから見てくださいかわいいよねドラウ昨日はねこんな感じで乗ってらっしゃるところから分離が始まりました。まずこんな感じで ISS についているんですけどこうやってノーズコーンが開いている状態です。これがノーズコーンの中にドッキングポートが入っていてそこでこう合体している感じガチャンと
So at this point in time, as we mentioned before, we are a few minutes away from the next major milestone.
で、このノイズコーンの中に4つね、実はドラコエンジンがついてるんですけど、ちょっとまた後で見れると思うので見てみましょう。
We are taking your social questions from social media. If you have one, be sure to use the hashtag
この辺からかな。アスクの差で質問ができるよっていう風にもアナウンスしてるので、もしなんか質問がある人はアスクの差でツイートするともしかしたら読んでくれるかもよ。英語でね。あ、離れていきましたね。 こんな感じです。
comes to us from Onchari. At what number?
どうかな。
1:20 a.m. Central Time, 2:20 a.m. Eastern Time, with the Dragon station flying 262 statute miles over the Coral Sea off the northeastern coast of Australia. So with that, Dragon now stepping
なんか噴射してるでし
into
ょ。
Depart burn
these
zero
depart burns.
nominal.
で、ちょっと見えなくなりそうだけど、ここに4つね、丸い黒にある丸いこの穴がドラコエンジンのです。なのでさっき燃焼してたのはこの4つ
All
のエ
right, so
ンジ
undock
ン。
burns completed.
Ah,
That
no,
depart
wait,
burn zero completed.
Kasi
Next one
Dora ko
coming up in
engine,
just a
yes.
couple of minutes, but with Dragon now
真
flying
っ白になっちゃ
free,
った。
I'm going to toss it back over to Shiva and Leah at MCCX and Hawthorne
い
to
る
take
調
us
子きま
through
した
the
ね。
rest of the
この
flight.
4つの穴がドラコエンジンの
Thanks a
穴。
bunch, Dan.
で、ここの真ん中
So
の
we
が
had some great
レッキング
shots
ポートで
there
す。
of
なので、
the first
ドラコエン
depart
ジン吹
burn.
いた
We're
両
coming
ビ
up
タ
on
ワンした
depart
後にこれを
burn.
閉
So
め
that
るん
was
だ
the
よっ
depart
ていう
burn
の
0,
を、
and now we're
まあ、そう
coming
だ
up
よ
on
ねって
depart
思っても
burn
らえると思います。
number 1. Now this will be a short firing of the Dragon's Draco thrusters. The burn just lasting about 16 seconds. You can see that Dragon has begun to fly away from the space station, and these initial depart burns essentially increase the range rate from the station, so we can get away from the International Space Station and get out of these various different spheres of control around the vehicle that keep both of the
ネット
vehicles
の
safe.
近くなんだと思うけど。
So we heard a
なん
call
て言えばいいんだろうね。
for
ここってなんかあったりするのかな。バス。
successful depart burn zero. That
でもね、多分ね、
16-second burn that
画面に
increases
出る
the
と思う。
speed at which Dragon is flying away
表
from
面
the
の、
station.
表面じゃ
It's
ない。
going to start to send it up
NASA の
and
画面に
over
出るん
the
じゃない
space
かなっ
station.
て。
It'll eventually
もしか
come
したら。
down and then behind the space station. This depart burn zero puts Crew Dragon Endurance and
Space
Nicole,
station を後に
Josh,
しました
Koichi, and
って言って
Anna
ま
on
す。
their journey home.
で、このキープアウトス
So
フ
there's
ィ
a
アから
good
出
look
てい
at
きま
where
す。
depart burn zero takes us. We'll also be standing by for depart burn one. That's another short burn, about 21 seconds. That's going to keep us on that trajectory to go over and then eventually down and behind
おー。
the International Space Station. Depart burn one is also going to be what's going to send us out of the keep out sphere. That is an invisible sphere around the International Space Station. It's a boundary, 200 meters in radius, and it helps us determine or helps us govern visiting spacecraft arriving or departing the space station. So before moving into that keep out sphere, you have to your spacecraft must be configured so that it would not cross that boundary for at least 4 orbits, even if for some reason it lost all maneuvering. So we monitor that before and after departure. Crew Dragon continuing to make its way further from the space station.
We're continuing to get some really cool views from the International Space Station cameras. This one's got Dragon, and it looks like one of the robotic arms in the foreground, Dragon in the background. And of course, the opportunity today was a little bit delayed from the initial timing, but as a result, it turned out that we had better communications coverage, so we could actually get some of these views from the space station. Now, Leah, I really like your explanation of the keep out sphere. I kind of analogize it to if you've ever flown into a major airport, there's an air traffic control team who's governing who can come into the airport, what timing they should go do that. And the keep out sphere is one of those imaginary constructs that allows the flight control teams of the visiting vehicles as well as the flight control team in Johnson to make sure that everyone is safe and no one is inadvertently entering to a place that is habited by people.
Yeah, and we have a couple of those boundaries. The keep out sphere is the one closer to the space station, and the other is the approach ellipsoid. That one is a 4 kilometer by 2 kilometer, again, an ellipsoid. It's more, it's not as much of a sphere. And it is also an imaginary shape, but it also helps us monitor those arrivals and departures of any and all visiting spacecraft.
エンドランスで2回目かな。2回目ですね。この子は2回目のフライトで今から帰ってきたら2回目完了で、名前が エンデュランスちゃんです。エンデュランス、エンデュランス。
Awesome, thank you, Frank, and the rest of the crew. We'll be following along.
Some kind words exchanged between the crew members. They were talking about the big loop. So that is the way that we refer to the combined communications between Mission Control and Johnson, the International Space Station, visiting vehicle, so Dragon, and then, of course, controllers here in Hawthorne.
Yeah, and we were talking about the approach ellipsoid. So what we're in right now, where we're talking on that big loop, this is joint operations. Both mission control teams working together with Crew Dragon, with the space station. And we are actually coming right up on Depart Burn 1, so that's what's going to take us up and over the station.
11時2分に着水なので、その前ぐらいにはもう見えるようになります。だからあともう本当に少しで見えるようになると思いますよ。
21-second burn using those service section Draco thrusters.
And every once in a while, thank you to the ground station or the ground operators on the Johnson side. They give us some.
分かったと思うから、ここです。ここよからじゃないですか。8時58分にはパラシュート開いてるので、その前、数分前なので50分ぐらいには分かるかもしれませんね。
Higher Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Depart burn 1 nominal, and we see Dragon on a nominal trajectory away from station. At this time, you are go to dock suits per procedure 4.012. And finally, I have a reminder that the big loop will be deactivated following Dragon's exit from the approach
これはリプレイ
ellipsoid.
だからね。大丈夫か？何？間違ってない？間違ってない？認識大丈夫？わかんない。リアなんか紛らわしいことした？大丈夫？これ昨日の14時に分離しました。16時、14時、16時。
I can't tell you how great it feels to be part of such an incredible team. And to the crew on board the International Space Station, you've got it. Make us proud. We'll be following along your mission. And to our friends and family, thank you for following along and being a part of our mission. It has been a
リプレイと思ってないかも。と思ったからリプレイって書いてたんだけど、ずっと勘違いするかも。リプレイって書いてるだから。
Absolutely overwhelming to back away from the International Space Station and gain some perspective on the place we've called home for almost half a year.
なので昨日の16時頃に分離して、今日11時なので何時間？
Are incredibly proud.
何時間？16、15、14、13、12、11。
So a few
16
things.
時間ぐらい。ずっとこの中に入ってる。トイレどうすんの？トイレ中にあるらしいよ。
All of us on Crew-5 are incredibly proud of the work we've accomplished while we were there. And to everyone who had a role in Expedition 68, whether direct or indirect, you should feel the exact same way. We thank you, and we're excited to get back to that beautiful planet of ours and those wonderful people who live on it. Thank you.
はい。エンデュランス。
Beautiful view of the space station. I see it. All the mission control centers all over the world. Thank you very much.
スペースシャトルと同じじゃん。スペースシャトルの中にも、スペースシャトルというかあれか、ISS の中にもトイレあるじゃん。そんな感じだと思うけどな。
And Expedition 68 crew, Sergey, Dmitry, Frank, Steve, Woody, Zoltan, and Andrei. Bon voyage, and we'll be following along.
今やってるスペース X のライブと一緒なの？右上のやつはスペース X のライブです。これですね。はい。今ね Q&A コーナーをやってたので、聞いて話すっていうのがちょっとリアルには難しかったので一旦止めたんですけど、 Q&A コーナーを気になる方は元配信を見てください。英語で答えてくれるので、英語でアスクナサーすればもしかしたら答えてくれるかもよ。トイレあるのって聞いてみたらいいかも。
Some words from all all 4 Crew-5 members giving a final farewell to the International Space Station.
There's no concern. It has no impact on Dragon's automated shoot deployment sequence.
そろそろ来ますかね。今切り替えました。音声今こっちになってます。
Okay, copy. We may get the APGS alerts if there's not Sierra Delta Charlie, but no impact.
こっち側はだいぶこんな感じで。
Those are good words. Other than that, the weather's still looking good, and we're looking forward to
はい、見てくだ
getting you
さ
home
い。
shortly.
コミュニケーションブラックアウト、
Expected
次は
blackout
これ
time
ますって
is
書いて
in
ますね。これ
approximately
2
minutes or so. We'll
再
see
突
you
入
on
に
the
よっ
other
て
side at
通信が止ま
0156
る。
Zulu.
これが次のフェーズです。
Copy. See you on the other side.
Wow, we got to that anticipated blackout time pretty quickly. So again, that's coming up at about 5:58 p.m. Pacific time, or I'm sorry, about 5:48 p.m. Pacific time.
結構早かったでしょ。早送りとか
So
してな
about
いから
30
ね。
seconds
結
from
構
now, we will be out of communication with the astronauts and the Crew Dragon capsule during that time. The Corps mentioned an AGPS potential alert coming up after they require signal. That is the absolute global positioning system. They had a couple of pop-ups earlier, but as you heard the Corps tell the crew, those are not of any concern for them. Additionally, I got a good report for everything on Crew Dragon, looking good as we head into this entry period. There was one ground item we were monitoring that the Corps discussed with the crew earlier this evening. The WB-57 will not be available due to a technical issue. Of course, this has no impact on the operations. It isn't necessary for return. Everything continues to go very smoothly. The main purpose that we fly the WB-57 is to collect engineering imagery in addition to what we get from the cameras on the boat. So we will have those cameras on the boat, keeping their eyes out to spot our crew members as soon as they re-enter the Earth's atmosphere.
That's right. Now, after Crew Dragon Endurance has re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, a series of parachutes will deploy to slow the crew's descent. First will be the 2 drogue parachutes, followed by the 4 main chutes to guide Dragon to its first contact with Earth since it launched. Dragon will automatically deploy those parachutes when different pressure and positioning sensors on the capsule detect that they are at the right speed and altitude.
And we were just talking about these speeds. So the velocity at the drogue deploy point, we've slowed down to 350 miles per hour. Those deploy at about 18,000 feet. That is quite different from the 17,500 miles per hour we were just traveling before the deorbit burn. And then the velocity at the time of the main parachute deploy is about 119 miles per hour. Those will deploy at about 6,500 feet. And then that gentle water splashdown, we will be traveling at about 16 miles per hour. So again, that highest G load we think is around 3 to 5 Gs. So they should be pretty comfortable just monitoring again as all of those parachute deploys are autonomous. Again, we are in that communications blackout period. It's just begun.
That's right. We're expecting that to last about 7 minutes, due to the formation of plasma around the spacecraft. During that time, no vehicle telemetry is received by mission control or the recovery team, and no external commanding of the vehicle or voice communication is possible. As a reminder, Dragon is designed to fly itself, though. During re-entry, the vehicle will be slowing down from the orbital velocity of 17,500 miles per hour. The top temperature that Dragon will experience upon that re-entry, in terms of the exterior temperature, is around 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So, as we mentioned before, we expect this blackout period to last several minutes. We are basically now in that re-entry period, and we anticipate this we anticipate getting that signal back in about 5 minutes from now.
This is moving pretty quickly because we are anticipating those drogue parachutes to deploy at about 5:58 p.m. Pacific time. So really just 7 minutes from now. We're looking at splashdown around 11 minutes from now. So this is a very quick timeline. A lot of things happening in rapid succession as our crew members come home. But again, we've heard good reports so far, and we are awaiting that acquisition of signal in around 4.5 minutes.
Now, one thing that if we were able to get views inside the Dragon capsule, which, like we said before, because of that plasma buildup, we are unable to get those views. But if you were watching earlier in the webcast, you did see those crew displays, those touchscreen panels that the crew was using to monitor the health of the capsule, the state of what was, you know, the state of command for what the Dragon capsule was actually executing. As of right now, they also now have a little map that shows where they are and how much further they have to go for this reentry. They will be able to follow along with the anticipated deployment of those parachutes. One thing that the crew is trained to do is be aware of the surroundings, and of course when those parachutes deploy, because they are slowing the capsule down, there is a small jolt that occurs during that deployment. And so and also brace for splashdown or brace for impact. That is the crew being aware and like just getting ready for
熱から守るというか、あえて守ってるらしいよ。それから昨日マックス級の話とかしたと思うんだけど、あれと同じです。ロケットが先端にこう当たる動圧 Q が大きくなるよって話をしたと思うんだけど、それと全く同じで、これも動圧です。Q と同じ。でもマックスも何も、こっちは下がれば下がるほど速くなりつつあったかくなるから大変ですよね。ある程度まで行くと減速してちゃんと計算と減速できるような角度になっているはずだと思うけど、マックス級でも発熱問題にならないのなってると思うけど、だんだん薄くなっていくから空気、多分そこまで熱くなりすぎて燃えるとかまではいかん。
And we also have our recovery teams already on site, already on Shannon, the SpaceX recovery ship, and that is waiting off the coast of Tampa. Some of those team members arrived by helicopter. We have one of our NASA public affairs officers also on.
And there's our first view of the Crew-5 crew in Dragon Endurance re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
So this is a view from the recovery ship itself of Crew Dragon re-entering Earth's atmosphere. Of course, we still do not have communication with them because you can see that plasma buildup as they are coming through the atmosphere, that heat shield doing all of the work to ablate that heat as it builds up around the capsule. So again, as we mentioned, you see the movements here. That's the ship camera moving and continuing to track the spacecraft during re-entry. We anticipate reacquisition of signal in just a couple of minutes from now. As Kate mentioned, it can vary on when we get that timing. But great to already have a view of our 3 astronauts and 1 cosmonaut inside as they are headed home. There will also be a couple of sonic booms during that time frame.
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
As I mentioned, the SpaceX core.
SpaceX Dragon, we have you loud and clear.
We have you the same. Good to have you back. Expect automated chute deployment.
Dragon copy.
You know, it's incredible to know that the voice we're hearing is coming from that gorgeous ball of light.
And all of the other little points of light you see around it, they appear to be streaking on the camera a little bit. Those are stars. Obviously, that beautiful bright light in the middle, that's Crew Dragon Endurance coming home after 157 days in space. We are standing by for drogue parachute deployment. That'll be in about 2 minutes, but we already do have acquisition of signal. That came, again, a little bit earlier than we expected, so it is a little hard to target sometimes.
GPS has converged. Expect nominal altitude for drogue chute deploy.
Nominal だって GPS OK。時間も大丈夫？
Dragon copy.
ドラゴンコピー。いいですよ。
Again, that point of light in the center of your screen, that is Dragon Endurance. Another, a different view. This one infrared coming from the recovery ship. As we were mentioning, all of those team members that are ready to recover the astronauts are on the ship. They're in position. It'll take just a little bit for them to move in toward the capsule once it lands, but they all have a very important and distinct role to play, either retrieving the capsule or helping the astronauts egress, and they are all standing by.
At this point in time, Dragon Endurance is about to deploy the drogue parachutes. Those automatically deploy around the 18,000 foot mark, and the capsule's going about 350 miles per hour.
Brace for drogue window.
Dragon brace.
So just a call out there to let the crew know that they are approaching that window where the drogue parachutes will automatically deploy.
And just prior to the deployment, Dragon automatically safes the propulsion system and then deploys the parachutes to stabilize and help decelerate the spacecraft.
Like we said, we're getting ready for those drogue parachutes to deploy on Dragon. That occurs automatically when it's about 18,000 feet above the ocean surface, and the capsule is going roughly 350 miles per hour. In that view before, there was a difference in, here we can see, it's no longer quite streaking like it was just moments ago, or minutes ago, I should say. Like I said before, it looks like those drogue deploys are now... Yep. We got...
Visual on 2 healthy drogues.
来ましたね。開いたー。すごいすごい。
Dragon copy.
ドラゴンコピー聞こえてますね。
As you can see with that infrared view, we have 2 healthy drogue parachutes on Dragon. There's a view from Dragon looking up at the drogue chutes.
Those will remain attached to the spacecraft until they help deploy the main parachutes, coming up in just a few moments. Again, these views coming to us from the recovery ship, standing by to recover our crew members once they splash down. Looks like we...
こんな映像見てたの初めてだよ。本当にガチでこんなに綺麗な映像
It looks like we have main parachute deployment there.
ここ数回の期間で。メインパラ
Main
シュート開
chute
きまし
descent
た。
rate nominal.
きたー。4つのクラゲさんがふわふわ。
Dragon copies 1,000 meters.
めっちゃ綺麗。綺麗すごい綺麗。
Beautiful.
Copy 1,000.
Beautiful view there from that recovery vessel of Dragon Endurance with those 4 healthy main parachutes. At this point in time, the capsule's going about 119, or was going about 119 miles per hour when those were deployed, and they also deployed about 6,500 feet. So these main parachutes will help slow the vehicle down even further to about
800 meters.
Copy 800.
So that we'll hear from the crew about how far they are above the surface of the water. So there we just heard that call out for 800 meters. The capsule is slowing down further and further. By the time that it actually splashes down, it'll only be going about 16 miles per hour.
It's fascinating to think that just minutes ago, really, they were in outer space.
リタとかに教えてあげて。かなりやばいこれは。
And are now just 600 meters above Earth. Again, we are targeting a 9:02 p.m. Eastern Time splashdown, 6:02 p.m. Pacific. So that is the next major milestone for us today. Now that we have 4 healthy main parachutes all deployed, things continue to look good aboard Dragon.
That's right. We're about a little less than a minute and a half away from the crew splashing down.
Copy, 400 meters.
Once again, we are targeting a splashdown off the coast of Florida, near Tampa. So this is what we would consider a Gulf landing.
And those strobes of light on your screen, those are spotlights coming from the recovery vessels as they continue to track Dragon Endurance.
200 meters, crew brace for splashdown.
パリピ感すごい。パリピ
Copy,
感。
200 and braced.
綺麗ですね。
Commander Nicole Mann giving out that call as we are standing by for splashdown off the coast of Tampa, Florida.
お、見えてきましたよ。来ましたよ。
There we can see the
さあ、
water
スプラッシュダムあと少し。
surface.
水面が見えます。
Dragon Endurance coming closer and closer.
だんだん近づいてきました。そしてきたー、スプラッシュダウン。
And as you just saw, splashdown of Crew-5.
スプラッシュダウン、バックオンアース。ようこそ地球へお帰りなさい。
157 days in space.
SpaceX Dragon splashdown. Names have been released.
IR カメラじゃないっていうのが素晴らしい。
Copy, Dragon. We concur with splashdown and mains released. Dragon Endurance, on behalf of SpaceX,
ドラゴ
welcome
ン
home.
エンデュランスさんの機関です。若田光一さんも乗っていらっしゃいます。
As you can see on your screen, visual confirmation for splashdown.
Thank you, SpaceX. That was one heck of a ride. We're happy to be home. Looking forward to next time.
すごいね。
Dragon Endurance has returned home, and NASA astronauts Nicole Mann and Josh Cassada, JAXA astronaut Koichi Wakata, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kikina are back on Earth after an approximately 19-hour return journey from space. The SpaceX recovery ship and team has been waiting for Dragon's splashdown, and now, as you can see, they're making their way to that splashdown location.
Right, and these teams have been ready and been waiting about 3 nautical miles away, so it'll take them around 30 minutes to make their way to Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna inside Dragon. We will be listening for Mission Control Hawthorne to give the go for the safe approach now that we have splashdown. There are several different roles. There is an approach boat that will begin inspections. They want to make sure that there aren't any hypergalls, monomethylhydrazine, and nitrogen tetroxide still lingering around the spacecraft. That way it is safe for the teams to move in even closer and retrieve it.
Yeah, the crew will basically approach the capsule, and they use what's basically a sniffing device, a device that can detect those levels of MMH and NTO. They are toxic to breathe, and so this is a super important step to complete.
SpaceX Dragon looks like we are in stable 1 on the level top.
Copy that, Dragon. We concur and are happy to report that the recovery personnel have also confirmed stable 1.
So just some communication there back and forth with SpaceX core Michael Blasco and Capsule Commander Nicole Mann, just to confirm the landing position of the capsule itself. As we can see there on your screen, even better now with that spotlight, the crew recovery team is approaching the capsule. They are going to make sure that that monomethylhydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide is not present on the exterior of the vehicle. There could potentially be traces due to the fact that those are the thrusters that Dragon was using while in orbit, and so we want to make sure that there aren't any traces of those fumes, basically, so that the team can get close to the capsule. We will actually see an individual climbing on top of the capsule to secure the harnesses that are necessary, the rigging, to lift the capsule onto the recovery vessel. As I have said before, certainly a job that I would not be fit to do, as it involves, as it requires jumping into what we can see as dark water, and climbing on top of the capsule and securing those harnesses.
Where's your sense of adventure? As we heard the core and the crew communicate, the capsule is in stable 1. That means it's in an upright position in the water. Makes it easier to recover, obviously. That is the ideal splashdown position for the capsule itself. So the crew members are still inside. They are still in their suits, in their seats. They will remain that way until the spacecraft itself is lifted onto the recovery vessel. But the first ships arrive are those fast boats. Again, they are just checking out the spacecraft, making sure that it's safe for the rest of the team to approach.
So for those of you that have just recently joined, the Crew-5 team has splashed down off the coast of Tampa, Florida. That occurred just minutes ago, and the recovery teams are now moving into place.
And we're anticipating that those first approach boats will arrive at the capsule just a few minutes from now.
Dragon, SpaceX is go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside Dragon in 1 minute.
Go for recovery だって。取りに行くってよ。来ましたボート。あ、では乗せてください。はい。
SpaceX Core just giving the crew a heads up. Hey, you might be seeing some people on the outside of the capsule. It's to be expected.
Yeah, first people that they've seen on Earth, you know, in almost 6
months.
That's right. 157 days in space. Now complete as Dragon Endurance with the Crew-5 crew. Now safely back on Earth.
めっちゃ可愛い感じだね、このなんか。
Again, this was the first flight, so the first re-entry experience as well.
あ、でもなんか照らされた瞬間になんかすごい汚れてるのが見えた。小型のモードですか？そうだよ。で、引っ張ってくるのこれ。
Told them a lot of what to expect, but it was a new spacecraft for him too. So, a lot of new and exciting experiences on today's ride home.
もしよかったらグッドボタン押してってください。励みになりますし、面白かったらたくさんの人に多分 YouTube さんが共有してくれると思うので、いいなと思ったらグッドボタンをぜひともよろしくお願いします。スペース X さんの元配信の方もできればよろしくお願いします。
Again, these views coming to us from recovery vessels off the coast of Tampa, Florida, had an on-time splashdown at 9:02 p.m. Eastern Time. And from what we can see, I would say those weather reports were pretty accurate. We had clear skies, able to see the spacecraft coming down under those 4 main parachutes and even the drogue chutes as well. And the seas look pretty calm also.
That's right. So as Leah just said, that
JAXA の方も配信されていて、ヒューストンの駐在の方がおしゃべりしてるみたいですね。こういうのも面白いかもしれない。
We can't just pick up the capsule and put them on a boat and bring them out. Very similar to their activities in space. Their activities here for recovery back on Earth are also very highly coordinated and choreographed.
もしかしてわかるかな？若田さん、これ初めてだから海に着水するの初めてなんじゃない
？Hopefully it might be tough because of the distance, but we will hopefully be able to see one of the SpaceX recovery team members will actually hop in the water. And then pull themselves up onto the capsule to basically secure the harnesses that are required to lift the capsule onto the recovery vessel. As of right now, if we were able to see
Dragon SpaceX requesting permission to come on board via the display camera view only.
夜中の船が同説多いということは、それはみんなが今から呼んでくるのだ。呼べ呼べ呼べ呼べ呼べ呼べ。ありがとね。ジャクさんのライブ配信でも用意してきた。ありがとう。さすがです。高評価数が776。ありがとう。たくさんつきました。まだでも同説たくさんいるんだけど、700人ぐらい押してないよ。押してね、押してほしいな。押して押して押して。でもあれかな、自由なので押すか押さないかは。はい。でも1000超えたいもん、1000超えたいもん。押してほしいもん。押して押して押してよーねー。でも共有とかでもいいよ。スパチャより全然できると思うし、なんかYouTube さんに分からせたいんよ。YouTube に分からせるの。そう、ペシペシしてペシペシ。分かっとんかお前。リアちゃんの配信のグッドいっぱいつくんやぞって、他のみんなにも広めてやれやって分からせてあげるん。分からせてお願いします。
Crew-5 astronauts now back on Earth. Again on the left, you can just see the top of
なるほど、有害物質の除去を多見してるのか。説明してなかった、ごめん。さっきのドラコエンジンっていうやつとスーパードラコっていうのが横についてるんだけど、そのところは危ない、結構有毒なエンジン、プロペラントね、水力燃料を使っているやつがついてるのね。でそれがもし漏れてたりとかしたら危ないから、人間危ないから確認して、それで回収する感じになります。いつ見てもコックピットかっこいいだよね、ほんと。みんなヒドラジンって言ってる。スーパードラコは危ない子。ドラジン。人間には危ない。リアにはご飯。今トイレ行けんのかな、無理じゃないかな。
Dragon, SpaceX, hypergol sweeps and unfired ordnance checks are nominal. Rigging is in progress. Approximately 25 minutes until capsule lift. Stand by for PMC with SpaceX flight surgeon.
Confirming good ordnance and hypergol checks, meaning they didn't detect any of those fumes that would prevent us from coming closer to the spacecraft, as well as we are anticipating they will have a private medical conference with the SpaceX flight doctors. This is normal routine for astronauts. They have them regularly on the International Space Station. They have them after launch and obviously after splashdown. So just a chance for the crew members to check in with the medical teams.
ヒドラジ。
So that view there on the right-hand
物
side,
物めっちゃいるヒドラジじゃないかな。
who is basically climbing or will be climbing on
ヒドラジ食べて毒吐く系を一度。やだ。
to secure the harnesses and the rigging that we will use to lift the Dragon capsule out of the water and onto that recovery vessel.
ヒドラジンですね。
That recovery, the larger recovery vessel.
ヒドラジンと資産化熱素かなと思います。多分 MMH かな。モノメチルヒドラジン。
as time continues, but as that call out that we just heard about a minute ago, everything checked out from the
結構ロケットのエンジンの推進剤として割とよくあるやつかも。でも最近はやっぱり第一弾の推進にはあんまり使われなくなってきたかもしれないね。結構なんか人工衛星とかのスラスターに使われることが多いかも。
crew members arrive on the recovery vessel Shannon, they
リカバリーベッセルって言ったけど、回収船がいます。この今ついている船たちよりももっと大きな船がありまして、その回収船シャノンという名前です。シャノンちゃんに乗せます。はい、ノラジン知らない？ノラジン以外知らない？セコマでは売ってない。セコマはすごいけど、8億はまだです。この後こいつをどんぶらこしてシャノンに乗せます。乗せ終わったら帰ってきますね。シャノンでシャロンじゃなくてシャノン。ヒドラジンって何が利点なの？ヒドラジンは自己着火できるかな。シアン化熱窒素と一緒にこう点火器がいらんくて混ぜると燃えるみたいな、そんな感じだと思うんだよね。で、そういうハイパゴリックなものを使って、ハイパゴリックって日本語なんていうの？ハイパゴリックって日本語なんて言うんですかね？検索しよう。ハイパゴリック。
Number one for the experience and the accomplishments that they have, but also now they're back home. They get to spend time with friends and family. They will be helped onto a stretcher, as we've seen before, just to help them get their land legs back.
ハイパゴリックって日本語なんていうの？自己着火性推進剤でいいのか？あ、自己着火性推進剤です。こう点火器がないからバルブ開けたら推進剤が出て推進力が発生するっていうやつで、なんかこう反応性が強い、そんな感じかな。だからなんか何回も燃やすエンジンとか、上空の宇宙機とかのエンジンとか、あとは簡単にこうガッと水力を出して、なんか多分バルブ開けるって単純な動作だけで燃えるやつ、そういう性質があるし。何その危ない性質？毒なんだよ、人体にはね。めっちゃ不安定、めっちゃ危険、めっちゃ有毒、発がん性やばい。だってメンヘラみたいヒロラジンメンヘラ説か。そっか。ちょっとでもなんかあると燃えちゃうのね。それで毒なのね。資産化熱窒素と合うと炎上するんだ。名前からしてメンヘラ。ヒドラジンメンヘラか。今私のこと見てたでしょ、ボッ。やだ、怖い。メンヘラ混ぜなくても自己着火します。一人でもうね。リアちゃんは何属性？キラキラアイドル属性でしょ。見てわからんのか、オラ。大丈夫だよ、キラキラのアイドルだからね。可愛いでしょ、ほら。
Lifting the capsule out of the water. I forget how long it took the first time we officially did it. I think it was about an hour and a half, and it's really well streamlined at this point in time. You know, this is the
現実にもヒドラジンみたいな人いる。やめろ。それ以上はいけない。みんなダメだよ。そんなヒドラジンみたいなメンヘラさんとかヒドラジンみたいな上司みたいなのとかなんかダメだよ。心の中でヒドラジンとか名前つけてダメだからね。あ、ね、高評価があとちょっとで1000超える気がする。高評価押して。 押してくれないの？なんでメンヘラなんで押してくれないの？押してくれなきゃ。あなたのこと燃やしちゃうから。ポメンヘラむずくない？メンヘラってどうやってやんの？ありがとう。やだ、ありがとう。ひどらないでメンヘラっぽくなんだ、ひどるっていうのやめろやめいヤンデレではメンヘラとは何が違うの？メンヘラどうやるの？メンヘラって私なんてって感じ？メンヘラ素でやるしかない。だってさ、なんでさ、こんなにさ、でも無理じゃない？メンヘラってむずいな。メンヘラとは
And this was a similar role also existed during Apollo. Those were also obviously splashdown missions. Those were called frogmen. And so they would make sure that the capsule was secured before it was brought into the recovery vessel. But speaking of recovery vessel, as we mentioned, we have several team members that are monitoring and assisting with different roles, whether that is to help with medical checks or to bring the crew itself. We also have my colleague, NASA Public Affairs Officer, who is on the ship, and she is standing by on the phone to give us
配信落ちました挨拶してくれてありがとうでもリア知ってるんだ、あの子の配信今からだよねとか違う、あとはあれだな、大好き楽しい本当にありがとう、ずっとこれからも一緒だよ、他の子なんか押したら許さないからね。
Welcome. I'm so glad that you were able to join us. So tell us what the team members are doing right now to prepare to bring Crew Dragon aboard.
それヤンデレか、これはヤンデレ、あ、そうなんだ闇属性、シャノンだ、これです。シャノンがここで、ここにドラゴンがいて、ここからどんぶらこをして、この座布団に乗せます。座布団に乗せた後をウィってこっちに押して、人間出します。闇リア、ヒドラ人系彼女。メンヘラってなんだろう。ねえねえ、なんでさ LINE したのにさずっと未読なん？あの子のことはさすぐ返信したリア知ってるよ。でもなんでリアだけ未読なの？なんかしたリアねえ、なんでずっと待ってるんだよ。未読するとかひどくない？ねえねえ、お返事するのって常識だよね。ねえ、なんで君のことを思って時間かけてさ言ってるのにさ、なんで返信くれないの？ねえ、なんで毎日返信してほしいって言ったじゃん。だって返信しないってくれないと不安って言ったじゃん。ちゃんとさ伝えたのにさ、なんでくれないの？なんでこの間のもさ既読スルーだったじゃん。未読じゃなくて既読だったけどさ、今日はずっと未読だよね。なんでね、電話もずっと出ないし、今日50回ぐらいかけたのに全然出ない。なんでねえ、どうして？今聞いた人びっくりしたいや、違う。 全然出てくれないから、だって寝てるのかなと思ったんだけど、違うのかな。寝てるんだよね、多分そうだよね。今からちょっとそっちに行くから待ってってね。リアがちゃんとあなたのこと起こしてあげるから待ってってほしいな。今から行くからね。だってブラックアウトしてたんやもん。ちょっと一番面白かったかもしれない。だってブラックアウトしてたんやもん。せやな。あ、同説減らないで、同説減らないで、お願い。減らないで同説、減らないで同説。色づいて透明、減らないで同説。この人なんかつなげてるかなと思うんだけど、なんか最終的に飛び込むんだよ、多分ジャボンって。飛び込まないかな。いけいけ、飛び込め飛び込め飛べ飛べ飛べ。まだ飛ばないか。この人つけたらね、その後ね、ジャポン飛び込むことが多いんだけど、今日飛ぶかな。いけいけ。飛び込め飛び込め。結構近づいてきましたね。おいでおいでおいでおいで。あ、1100、ありがとう。たくさんいただいて本当に嬉しい。ありがとうございます。
When that hatch was last closed, that was the day that they went to space, and today's the day that they came home.
Absolutely, and that journey beginning back in October and ending just 25 minutes ago, an on-time splashdown at 9:02 p.m. Eastern, and everything is really moving along with the timeline. Ideally, you know, the recovery ship arrives about 30 minutes after splashdown. Complete that rigging process. You can see that team member still on the capsule itself.
この人いつも同じ人なんかな。ちゃう人なんかな。あ、投げた。なんか投げたなんか投げた。紐みたいなの投げてますね。ちょっとなんかひよこっぽいこのアングル。ひよこっぽくない？お菓子の。
Within a couple of hours of splashing down, that will take them back to Florida before they fly back to Houston, and Anna Kikina will also fly back to Russia.
Yeah. So we're getting to the point in time where, oh, there we can see that lifting arm being moved into the position.
あ、見て見て見て。クレーンがこう、クレーンがね、こう倒れてきましたね。このクレーンで吊り上げるので、こう見ててください。
We can see that recovery team member
クレーンにこうかけてから降りるのかな、この人は。発光するひよこ、ゲーミングひよこじゃん。ゲーミングひよこ。どんぶらこの桃。
Although I imagine it would be kind of fun to ride Dragon as it gets lifted out of the water, but certainly not safe, so we won't be doing that.
And when they lift Dragon, it's also very stable the entire time. It's not swinging around a lot because there are those different attachment points that make it very, very stable for the crew members coming out of the water and being placed on the recovery ship.
どこにかけるんだろう。今ちょっと光ってて見えないんですけど、人間がいると思うんですよね、そこに。かけてる。あ、来たー、飛んだー、飛んだー、ジャンピングオフ。来たー。このね、上のとこに引っ掛けるとこがあって、そこに玉かけするのね。そこでちゃんとかけてあげて、かけてあげて、そこから引き上げます。見てればわかると思う。
And as the capsule is being lifted, there's our first view of that heat shield. Once again, that was the The primary decelerator for the Dragon capsule, that's really what helps slow the vehicle down to about 350 miles per hour from 17,500, of course, during that re-entry burn that we saw.
すごい、水がパシャパシャ出てる。
Certainly did its job.
Yeah.
座布団に下ろしていきましょう。
With the help of those parachutes, about 16 miles per hour.
ひよこっぽいね。ここのとこについてます
So
ね。
they have obviously lifted Dragon. They are placing it in that nest.
ゆらゆら。これ人間乗ってると思うと面白いね、やっぱ。水が出てくる。
Now we can see some
は
water
い、どんぶらこどんぶらこ
held
と
in what looks like
出てきた
kind of like a bucketed area there underneath
ドラコを
the side
おばあさんが
hatch.
引き上げまし
That
た。
is the location of where the main parachutes are stored. So all 4 of those main parachutes are tightly packed
はーい。
and placed in that cubby basically. And we can see water draining from it now.
上手だね。
The location of the drogue parachutes
本
is
当に早い
near
ね。
where that
すぐじゃ
harness
ん。
is secured above the side hatch there at the top.
はい。
And it's always interesting for me to see those attachment points because, you know,
こけたかな？
before seeing these missions or
なんか
before
浮かしたり
working
してる
at
けど。
NASA, you would always assume that
頑張れ頑張れ。
the parachutes would just come
も
from
う
the
ちょっと
top
か
of
な？
the
もうちょっと
space
前かな？
station.
よしよしよしよし。
So
頑張
not
れ
always
頑
the
張れ。
case.
微調整して。はい。置けましたかね？
Looks like Dragon is
はい。終
getting
わり。
comfortably seated in the nest. Again,
まだ
things
まだやんの？
moving
あ、まだやんの？
along,
頑張れ頑張
few
れ。
minutes ahead of the
もうちょい。
ideal timeline
ちょ
here.
い。
Now just 30 minutes since splashdown, and we already have the spacecraft on the recovery vessel.
着水から
And this
30分
one,
が経ち
this
ましたと
recovery
言ってい
vessel
らっ
will
しゃい
name
ます
Shannon after Shannon Walker.
はい。
Dragon, welcome aboard the recovery vessel.
ドラゴンがリカバリーベッセル、この回収船の上に乗りました。
Stand by for
リカバ
translation
リ
to
ー
the
できま
egress
した。
pod.
ここから人間出していきますよ。この場所じゃなくて、ここからちょっと後ろに、こう、後ろ前に押し込んで、そこから、人出すフェーズに入ります。
The Crew-5 crew members are feeling a different sensation now. So when they splash down, of course, they're greeted with gravity once again. But there was an additional sensation of being in the water. And now that they are on the recovery vessel, it is clearly more secure.
クリアリーって言ってる。
Or not more secure, a lot less motion than being in the water. Of course, they're still on a boat, so there's a little bit.
Yeah, and after these connection lines are removed, we'll be looking forward to hatch opening. Of course, we have to move the Dragon to that egress platform first.
します。
But Dragon will stay in this hatch, or in this nest, I should say, until it returns to port. So
次発オープンですからね。
flown back
カプセルの再利用するのかな？この子は2回目のフライトです。カプセルの再利用はします。まだ周りとかねとコレクとかケアしてあげてからだと思うけど、カプセル自体は再利用します。
So following along with the recovery procedures, we're looking at roughly 5 to 6 minutes until we get that side hatch open. Once again, assuming that all the checkouts, of course, the capsule, the Dragon capsule itself is equalizing the pressure inside to match
よし。
the
では
pressure
自
outside as
分の
well.
スマホの電池がないことに気づきましたので、
And
スマホを
ultimately,
充
the
電し
crew
ま
is
す。
just
やばいやばい。
continuing to monitor the progress. They're using those screens in front of them, but they remain comfortable in their seats. We continue to flow that nitrox air through the suits in order to keep them comfortable. Of course, I always like to say that that air is the same stuff that scuba divers use to, in their breathing equipment. So that cooled air is certainly an additional piece of comfort for the crew during this process, because as we said before, right now there's nothing for them to do but patiently wait for the translation of the Dragon capsule into that full, more forward position, as Leah was talking about, where we will be able to open the side hatch.
充電しとれ
And
ば
again,
いいや。
obviously
そう
we've
やね。
got Dragon Endurance on the left and that view on
こ
the
れ
right
までど
coming
こが出
from
る可能性あるの？
inside
一応
the
考
spacecraft
えてはいると思う
itself.
けど、
Our 4 Crew-5 members
大丈夫だと思うよ。ある程度ちゃんと確認した上で漏れてないねって見てるから。
on their part.
焼肉のタレ？
just continuing to monitor.
ヒドラジンのことかもしれないってコメントもらった。ヒドラジンじゃないよ、やんない。ヒドラジンでもいいや。それわかんの？関西じゃないの？これ関西なんかな？地域性出るな。地域性出るか。長いお付き合い。
So once again, we're standing by for the capsule.
関西な。
for that
関西のネタがわかるもの多いで。
to the egress platform.
連れてって連れてって連れてって連れてって地球出るとき連れてって。
And as we've mentioned tonight, the crew will board a helicopter that lands on that helipad where Chelsea was talking about watching splashdown from. They will be transported back to shore tonight.
アトラスの551形態があるとき、アトラスが551形態じゃないとき、アトラスが551のとき、アトラスが551じゃないとき。関西電気保安協会だって関西電気保安協会
extremely quickly to the scientists on Earth.
And there we can see that Dragon Endurance is now making its way to the egress platform with that
仏壇のなんだっけ仏壇なんだっけなんだっけ仏壇のわかんない。待って。
Slow and steady, but this is the last major move for Dragon after this.
花店中古車センター何言いますね花店中古センターとかそれ花店って放出ってことデプロイってことか。なるほどな。うまいな、さすがやな。放出やって。あ、来た。動いた。放出。花店はデプロイ。花店はデプロイです、皆さん。これから花店ホテルニューアワージコメント欄のネタが花店
So basically just trying to give it a freshwater bath as it is on the deck. We're also able to see that the recovery team on the platform has their personal respirators or breathers.
花店ってこと？じゃなくて放出って書いて花店って読むんだよ。本当に放出って書いて花店って読む。
There are no fumes for
読みづらいけどね。
the MMH or NTO, that monomethyl hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide. Those are the propellants that are on board the Dragon capsule for its on-orbit propulsion system. And
見えない。ハッチオープン。次はハッチオープンって書いてます。次はハッチオープンって。13やないって話な。花店。ハッチオープンそろそろですよ。花店とひらかたを読めへん人多い。ひらぱ兄さんに怒られんで。ひらぱ兄さん。前方ちゃうし。これハッチですね。駅にはすごく白かったあのハッチがこんなに黄色くなって電車座れたか。
The astronauts are going to egress from that hatch right there. That's the side hatch. And before opening the hatch, the spacecraft's cabin pressure is equalized with the outside environment. Then once that side hatch is opened,
立派なひよこになって立派なひよこになって
that will be the crew's first breath of fresh earthly air since boarding Dragon at the start of their mission back in October.
Now right here you can see SpaceX crew members.
立派なひよこ。よしよししてあげて。
on the spacecraft itself.
忍者今日は覆面じゃなくてマスクだけですね。忍者よしよし忍者頑張れ忍者。
And once that happens, it's important to note again, Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna will be getting that assistance from the recovery teams when they're exiting the capsule. It is the same process for any returning long-duration crew members.
これどうやって開けるんだっけ？いや。
challenge our vestibular system that's responsible for maintaining our balance and motion. And of course, safety is always the number one priority with this operation. So you'll see Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna helped out of the capsule, assisted a few feet to the medical quarters before the go. And if you've ever watched crews return on a Soyuz or even previously with Dragon, this is the same process. As well, they are carried from the capsule to waiting chairs, and then in the case of the Soyuz, there's a waiting medical tent. And then, as I mentioned earlier, this is also the time period where
誰かパスワード持ってきたか？誰もパスワード持ってきていないのである。そんなやだ、そんなの。せっかく回収したのに。あんたこんな大きなもの拾ってきてどうするんこれ。いや、なんか浮いてたから、変な圧浮いてたから。あんたこんなもの持って帰ってきて食べられへんやんこの大きいやつ。気になってんだっておかしいやんこんなんあるって気になってんや許してえな。やだカムほらもっとあったとこに返してきなさい。ダメでしょこんな大きいもの拾ってきちゃうちにはこのね帰る場所なんかないんだからね。でも可愛いよひよこみたいだもん可愛いよ。これはどう見ても見たことないでしょ。でもリアのことまっすぐ見て可愛い声で泣くよピーピーって泣いてるよ。開きました開きましたごめんなさい開きました8オープンですイエーイ。はい、こちらの画面でも8オープンして見えますね。はい、ここから1人ずつ出てきますよ。あとリア15分ぐらいで配信終わらなきゃいけないので全員分見られないかもしれませんが一応最後までできるだけ見ようと思っていますのでよろしくね。口を開けて餌を求めているひよこだピーピーピーピー。
As I mentioned before, of course, we reuse our Dragon capsules, and so really to
開けてから取り付けるの？なんかちょっと蓋みたいなのつけてなんかカバーみたいにしてあげてるのかな。多分ここにこれから滑り台っぽいものをこう置くと思うので、そういう感じのジグというか保護剤かもしれない。誰からかな真ん中辺の人からかもしれませんけどなんか今こうピピピってしたらね誰から行くみたいな誰から行くんカラさんは長期間だったから立てるかな。全員同じ期間ですよ。クルー5っていうチームで半年間行ってこのチームが帰ってきたっていう感じなので全員同じ時間いました。出ておいで。はい、イーグレス出てきますよっていうふうにも書いてますね。おいでおいで。写真撮られてますね。記念撮影です、記念撮影。はいチーズ。イエーイグッドありがとうございます。パシャパシャパシャパシャパシャパシャパシャパシャ。さあ出ておいで。
It was a very pristine white on launch day, and within the last hour, of course, it re-entered the atmosphere and splashed down, and we can see that evidence there on the exterior of the capsule.
Yeah, the heat shield obviously did a great job bringing back our crew members safely. And this is the second flight for this capsule, so there is the opportunity for it to be taken back and refurbished or
Nicole, Josh, Koichi, Anna, Igles.
So for those of you just recently joined, the Crew-5 astronauts and cosmonaut are now on board the recovery vessel, and we are awaiting their egress from Dragon Endurance. They will come out one at a time, assisted by the recovery team members. As you can imagine, after spending 157 days in space, gravity might not feel super awesome right now, and so we will
なんか取れましたね。
just to make sure
下の
that they are
足のとこの
safe,
やつかな、
making
レ
their
ッグ
first
レストみたいなやつかな。いろいろ取れてる。
You can see them
あ、
passing
足についてたあれですね。
those are the
緊急なんたら
tablets that we
用の
noticed earlier. The crew members wear
touch.
around their upper thigh. They're able to monitor
外してる外してる。
on
早
those
く出してあげ
tablets.
て。
So they're starting to pass those out of the hatch. I think I've seen all 4 come through, and that was a footrest. Those can be detached, obviously, here on Earth, or whether on orbit to have a little bit more space in the capsule. So they'll remove those 4 footrests to allow teams to
フットレストって言って、
more
フットレスト
easily
と外してる。
enter Dragon and help these crew
はい、
members
滑り台も今取り付けられそうですね。
Again, this view here in Mission Control in Hawthorne, California. Teams at SpaceX monitoring the return and arrival of Crew-5. Coming up on about 45 minutes since splashdown tonight. The side hatch is open. Crew members are being prepared for egress. Everything has moved really smoothly tonight so far.
出てくると待って待って、声があと10分ぐらいなんだけどな、頑張り出ておいで。
Toward the side hatch, that view has Commander Nicole Mann on the left-hand side and pilot Josh Cassida on the right-hand side.
ちょっと面白いやつ見つけたのでこれ出すわ。ほら、こんなのが今
So they're most likely debriefing the crew members
昼の時の回収はこんな感じなんですよ。
the next steps for their next steps.
船
And helping them get out of their seat belts. Just making things easier for that egress. We saw those foot restraints.
こんな感じ。ちょっと結構船のサイズ感わかるかな。こんな感じですね。
easier for our crew members. As you can see, their visors are up. They are hopefully pretty comfortable in those custom-fitted
こんな感
suits,
じ。
as well as those seat inserts that
こう
are
ね。
custom.
ヘリポットもあります。そうですそうです。で、こうやってこう
Again, these
こうや
are
って
SpaceX
こんな感じで
team
こ
members.
うなんかわかるかな。
Helps
結構
distinguish
でかいよね。
due to the different
船に比
colored,
べてその
flight suits they're wearing. So they're
もっとちっちゃいかと思ったけど
wearing black
結構
suits,
暗
and
い
typically
で
when
か
you
い
see
感じにな
someone
ってま
in
す。
a royal blue suit, that is a NASA team member. So we
で
saw a couple of those
こん
from
な
the
感じ
other
で
view,
押し
but
込んで
right now
あげ
it's
る。
mainly the SpaceX crew
こうやって押し込んであげて、
inside Dragon
今この
helping the
ここのところで
there's a few of those
人間出してる感じです。
NASA team members, as we mentioned.
あ、そう、こことここ同じ。
That's a great shot
こんな感
because
じ。
you can really see that scorching on the thermal protection system, as I was talking about earlier. That evidence of re-entry.
シャロンってやつとミーガンってやつといて、多分これミーガンちゃんかもしれません。
3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, and I think it's quite beautiful to see returned capsules, of course, because you know, it's just that evidence of
みやちょっと
space
出発
flight.
の準備するね。
Absolutely.
Just a slight toasting.
準備するだけ。まだ配信続けるから。
And just a reminder, of course, once these astronauts are helped out of the capsule, we'll see them being placed likely on stretchers, again, helping them regain their Earth legs. They'll then move into those routine medical checks. Those happen on the boat. And shortly after those, they will board
出てくるかな。
a ready and waiting helicopter to
忘れもないように。は
head
ーい。
back to land. Once they come back to Florida, there will be a NASA spacecraft waiting for them to bring them back to Houston. They'll be able to reunite with their friends and family.
おう。
looks like our egress is beginning with NASA astronaut Josh Cassada.
来るか来るか来るか来るか。お、来た。
Dragon Endurance on Crew-5.
来た来た来た来た来た。
His first space flight coming home with 157 days.
来ましたね。音入ってなくない？待って、なんで音入ってないの？音切れたのかな？元配信の音が切れてる。
I believe there is a, almost like a little slide that is secured to the exterior of the capsule and to the egress deck. Basically, to bridge that gap. Yeah, we can see Josh sliding out of the
ジョッシュ・カサダさんかな。
And that really just helps them get out of the capsule, not only from the standpoint of making it easier on them, but also preserving the hardware around that, the hardware of the side hatch as well.
桃から生まれた。
Of course, all those buttons that we see there on the crew displays are all now completely deactivated now that the Dragon capsule is recovered.
外の映像見せてくれないのかな。なんか前はいつも見せてくれてるんだけど。
So even if somebody were to bump one with their elbow or their head, nothing would happen. Those have all been saved.
So Josh Cassada,
もしくはあれかな、ヘロヘロしすぎるからあれかもね、ヘロヘロになってる様子を見せないとかそういう感じかもしれません。配慮されてるのかもしれないよこれ。前まではなんか映ってたんだけどね。もしかしたらそうなんかもちょっとわかんないけど。無事に帰ってきてたようでよかったです。
Yep. If I had to guess, that was probably that recovery team member accidentally bumping the armrest comm panel, which is the comm panel that they use to basically push to talk while they're in their seats. So if I had to guess, that was an accidental bump there. So it looks like the second individual to egress from the Dragon capsule will be Commander Nicole Mann.
ニコルマンさんかな？
And there she goes.
Go go. コマンダー C5 って言ったから多分コマンダーのニコルマンさんでしょうか。
Also 157 days for Nicole, being that it was her first space
はい、
flight.
2人目出ました。あともうちょっとで出ます。
I would imagine for Koichi, who you mentioned earlier, has, you'll have to refresh my memory, over 500 days now logged in space?
Yes, exactly 505
There
today.
we go.
So
I imagine this part is never easy, but he's very familiar, knows what to expect in terms of
the change in mobility now that he's back on Earth. 500時間何時間って言った？ 難しい難しい。あ、立ってる。すごい。あ、こちら側からの映像を出してくれるんですね。お、椅子みたいなものに乗せてますね。はい。で、コロコロコロコロ、イエーイ元気そうでよかったです。はい、3人目。
Exactly, and as you mentioned earlier, all the crew members are effectively placed on what basically looks like a stretcher, and that's just again really to assist them because returning to Earth after, as we said before, 157 days in space can be pretty tough on the body, and of course in order to keep them safe we want to assist them, so all 4 of the crew members are placed on a wheelie bed and rolled back to those medical quarters, as you said, for their evaluations with the flight doctors.
For now, our NASA astronauts are out of the spacecraft. We are awaiting egress of this Cosmos cosmonaut, Anna Kikina, her first space flight, and as we mentioned, seasoned veteran Koichi Wakata of the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency.
こっちからの映像来た。
Looks like it may be Anna.
事務所 OK が出ているんでしょうか。
Yeah, as I mentioned before, that slide, we have a great view of that slide now. Really helps the crew
こいちー、よかった。あ、喉が死んだ。
Oh, this is probably Koichi. Judging by, I can see that Japanese flag on that team member right there on the right.
あ、止まった。事務所 NG か。止まった。
I think you're right, because it looked like, yeah, that looks like Koichi.
できたー。
It looks like they were pulling from seat 1, so yeah, that would have been Koichi's.
こいち。
Oh, I can see a smile on his face.
あ、笑ってる。ニコニコしてる。よしよし、お疲れ様。お疲れ様です。バイバイ、ありがとね。あー、お疲れ様。おかえりなさい、岡田さん。おかえり、おかえり、おかえり。あと一人かな。アナちゃんかな。アナキキナさんが最後に残ってます。今3人も出ていて、あと1人ですね。あと1人出たら多分止めるからもう配信。ごめんね、マジで。時間なくて。はい、アンナちゃん。
Not even an hour since splashdown, and we are almost having all 4 crew members out of the spacecraft.
That's right. Splashdown occurred off the coast of Tampa, Florida at 9:02 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, we're
滑り台がこんな感じなんだね。
Again, we had great weather reports as we prepared to splash down at Tampa, and we even got pretty good views of how calm the
今日はたくさんの人に見てもらえて本当に嬉しかったです。やっぱり半年に1回しか見てもらえないものでもあるから、しかも日本人宇宙飛行士が乗ってるのってマジでレアだからね。だからこうやってみんなで見れて嬉しかったです。本当にありがとうございました。
At the top of the capsule there, there
アンナちゃん、きなちゃんお疲れ様でした。打ち上げの頃からすごい頑張っている感じに見えててね。あ、お疲れ様、ありがとうございます。いただいたご支援はすべてリアの活動に当てさせていただきます。よろしくお願いします。
Make her way down the fun slide and egress Dragon Endurance, which once again made its
アンナさん出てきました。お疲れ様でした。うおー、元気そうでよかった。
Our final crew member to egress tonight, again her first space flight. She will also have those same medical checks before flying back to Russia.
Look at that smile as well.
はーい、出てきましたね。お疲れ様です。あ、いってらっしゃい。またね、またね。アナちゃんお疲れ様でした。はい。ということで、あ、終わりましたね、ちょうど。
And that is all 4 of our crew members. Now that Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna are safely back home on Earth.
全体的にも終了ということで、今日は本当に綺麗な映像が見れてよかったですね。めちゃくちゃ綺麗だったので、今後もリアライブよろしくお願いします。いいなって思った人は今からでもグッドボタンを押していってください。そして、明日以降はまたツイッターとかでお知らせしますので、ツイッターのフォローもぜひよろしくお願いします。ツイッター見てくださいね。よろしくね、本当によろしくね。ありがとうございました。では、お疲れ様でした。また会いましょうね。今日のベストショットこんな感じ。はい、素晴らしかったです。あ、じゃあどっちがいいかな。よし、これで終了。
That heat shield doing all of the work to ablate that heat, not inside.
よいしょ。シュッシュ。はい。リアライブ撮影会せーの。イェイ。はー、チーズ。はい、それから
Copy 800.
all deployed.
こんな感じかな。はい、チーズ。オッケーってことでお疲れ様ハリンでした。すいません、最後ね、プチって切れちゃいますけど、今日はたくさんの人に見てもらえて、しかも朝ね3時頃からずっと見てくれてた人もいるみたいなので、本当にありがとうございました。また次の配信も来てください。ありがとうございました。薄いクリアでした。バイバーイ。やばいやばいやばいやばい、頑張らなきゃ。帰るぞー、よし帰るぞー。よいしょよいしょよいしょ。花店中古車センターはデプロイ覚えた。お疲れ様あれでした。バイバーイ。